So the Maha Movement, of course, if you have lived under a rock the past few months, is the Make America Healthy movement. We got to start slow and just kind of get your foot in the door, and then slowly you can make that a lot bigger and bigger. For the first time, I feel like there's actually positive momentum for health in America. It is good to know that there are people that are working to be able to make things get up, make things progress in our country and help make America healthy again. All right, welcome to the Superhuman Entrepreneur podcast. Today, we're talking about something a little bit different. My name is Dr. Jerry Mipsy. You can call me Dr. J. And I want to talk to you about what I learned as I was testifying for the Maha Movement at the Arizona State Capitol. And the good and the bad of all that. It was definitely a very interesting experience, and I was grateful for the opportunity. So thanks to my friend, Joe Polish. Hopefully you have listened to this podcast interview already. So a little bit different. It was definitely eye-opening for me and interesting. So the Maha Movement, of course, if you have lived under a rock the past few months, is the Make America Healthy movement. So that's led by Bobby F. Kennedy Jr., combined with Trump, the Trump administration, to kind of help get that going, because that was his main focus of where he wanted to go if he was going to run for president. And so Trump and Bobby F. Kennedy combined, and basically Bobby F. Kennedy now has free reign of the Make America Healthy. And so a lot of things are happening in the background and different things. And so one of the things that they're doing is they're passing these bills to try to help improve the health of our country and different things. So there was two bills that I was able to go testify for at the Arizona Senate Health Advisory Board. Those are HB 2164 and HB 2165. So what were those two bills? So 2164 is about eliminating processed foods in school lunches. So great bill. And we'll talk about that one. And then the second one is the 2165 was eliminating SNAP benefits being able to use for soda. And so both of those had an interesting journey as they got through the House of Representatives and then to the Senate, and that's where we were. So they were getting ready. We testified for the bills to be able to go to the Senate floor, which they eventually got voted for. And both bills passed, which was great, at least from on our perspective, and then made it to the governor's desk, which we'll talk about that in a second. The foods. Or the school lunches. So there was a few short things on the list, 11, I think there was 11 that ended up being there, of different chemicals, whether they're food dyes or food additives or different things that were added into foods that just have a huge impact on the brain health for kids, let alone a lot of other things, and they're addictive and all these different things. So you can go read, the list wasn't super long. The list could have been 100 items long, but with politics, that's one of the big things I learned, is that we got to start slow and just kind of get your foot in the door, and then slowly you can make that a lot bigger and bigger. So it was interesting. So I was there. I was able to testify with Kelly Means, and he's had some, of course, some great stuff coming out on what the food and the soda industry has been doing to our health. And so it was awesome to be able to be there with him and to testify on those bills with him. They had a recording from Dr. Danny Amen. There was also Alex Clark and a couple other people there that testified with us. So great opportunity, and it was fun. It was kind of interesting. They said basically you have 4 minutes to say what you need to say and get it out. And really, that the processed foods in the Arizona school bill was really important to me. I have 2 daughters who are in Arizona schools, and I would love for them to have good options for school lunches, so we didn't have to stress about that. Especially my younger daughter is very sensitive to food colorings, and they really affect her moods and her focus and her behavior when she gets even a small amount of those food colorings. So it was awesome to see that get passed. And so it was interesting because the school lunch bill passed 100%. On both sides, Republicans and Democrats, both in the House and the Senate, passed that 100%. And that one has been signed into law, which is awesome. The second one is a little bit more interesting, the HB 2165. That's where the SNAP benefits are. So the SNAP benefits, when that bill was first created, actually was trying to ban all junk food from being used for SNAP benefits. If you're not familiar with what SNAP benefits are for low-income families having to have dedicated money given to them so that they can buy nutritious foods. Of course, wonderful bill, great thing. Nutrition is so important, and we want to make sure that everyone has access to that. But what people didn't realize is that $15 billion every year of that was basically going straight to the soda companies. Pepsi, Coke, all those companies were getting so much money from those SNAP benefits that were supposed to be for nutrition. And whether you like Coke or Pepsi or Diet Coke or whatever, I don't think anyone can really argue in any sense of the word that there's any amount of nutritious value applied or provided in any of those drinks. And so they're trying to actually get that legally passed so that can happen. It was interesting because one of the sponsors of the bill was on the Arizona Senate committee, so she knew some really good questions to ask as we're going through with that. And the opposition that was there from the lobbyists they were, of course, from the soda industry, and also had sponsoring from the American Medical Association, which was really weird that they'd be opposing this bill. And so on the Senate committee, there were 7 of them, and 4 of them were Republicans, 3 of them were Democrats. All 3 Democrats opposed and didn't want the bill to go through to vote, but the majority had it, and so it still did. But their reasonings for why they did not want it passed were very interesting. Anyway, I'll read one of them. Read them in a second because so that bill also then went to the Senate, and Arizona Senate passed it. It got through, of course, with basically down party lines for the vote, and then it got to the governor's desk. And like I said, the governor passed the first one for the Food Act. Or the school foods, but then she vetoed. I was going to read her rejection for that because it's funny because her rejection was almost word for word the rejection from one of the other members on the Senate committee. It was like they had been given something that they memorized to read. Hey, Dr. J here. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast and like the information that we're providing, be sure to subscribe and leave a review and like the podcast because it helps us to be able to expand our reach to find other entrepreneurs. Your support helps us to reach other entrepreneurs and help us to help them truly unlock their superhuman potential and make the world a better place. All right, so this is her reasoning for why she rejected and vetoed. She said today, and this is from her official publication. Today, I vetoed House Bill 2165. I appreciate your intent to improve the health outcomes of Arizonans, yet this legislation unnecessarily deprives Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program participants of their purchasing power and regulates them to a new underclass of grocery shoppers. SNAP is the most robust and effective anti-hunger tool we have that we know in Arizona. I know this firsthand. I invite you to join me in more productive efforts to expand opportunities in participating to purchase fresh foods. So even right there in that thing, she basically contradicts herself. She's talking about she wants to using SNAP in that second paragraph, using SNAP benefits to purchase fresh foods, but yet she's blocking them from buying, or she doesn't want us. She wants them to still be able to buy soda with that. And really that same underclass of grocery shoppers that would come from SNAP benefits is one of the Arizona Senate Health Committee ladies also was her reason for rejecting basically word for word. And the sponsor from the Arizona Senate that was there, she was really great. She's like, yeah, it does create a difference. It's the healthy and unhealthy. And so really it's interesting to see the politics of all this. Anyway, it was a really great experience and fun time there. And then shortly after that, we had a public discussion there. I don't remember what they called it. We got together. And so then basically we were there and Kelly Means was kind of talking to all of us. And then he asked me a question. I was the only doctor that was there. This is my biggest takeaway from the whole thing. For the first time, I feel like there's actually positive momentum for health in America. As I was, in my first decade in my career as a doctor, I always felt like I was going to have to hide and, just do things in the background. And the people that found me and were able to help. And I was able to help them. But now things are moving forward, more advancements in disease reversal nutrition, peptide therapies, all the things that we've been doing for a long time are now becoming more and more mainstream and more known. And this will help us to actually get some things organized, get some regulations on things, and really to help America progress and become the healthiest country rather than the least healthy country of all modern civilizations that are out there. So that was really a great experience and super important. And then also after that, I was invited to, they had a dinner, so I was able to go and talk with a little bit more and get to more of the details of some of the politics. And they're already planning on what would happen if she vetoed this and blah, blah, blah. And it was really interesting to see them going into all that details and knowing they're definitely a world that I am glad that I do not have to live in. Definitely love the opportunity to go and help, but that's going through the details of it is very interesting. And then just wrapping up the day, I thought it was, there was a small room there with the Senate committee. I think my team will post some clips and pictures of it if you're watching this on YouTube. But I didn't realize that basically all of the other senators and representatives that were there are watching us on closed circuit television. And so as I was walking out afterwards, there was countless people that came up and told me, hey, great job and thanks for what we're doing. With that. So that was really exciting. So it is good to know that there are people that are working to be able to make things make things progress in our country and help make America healthy again. And so, and then ultimately too, a couple weeks after they went through the Senate and got approved, then Bobby F. Kennedy came into town and I was invited to his press briefing and was there. It was fun to see all I don't know if fun is the right word. It was interesting to see all the craziness that comes with all the media that was following that and different things too. So it was a very interesting experience. So ultimately, like I said, it's a little bit different from our normal podcast, but what it means for our future, what it means for your kids. Because yes, Arizona was one of the first states that got these things passed. And even since then, I know that Bobby F. Kennedy is pushing more and more food coloring to be banned and more things that are progressing. And ultimately that's going to lead to our kids being healthier and a generation that's going to be healthier than the previous, which hasn't happened for actually a few generations when it comes to health in America. And so it's definitely positive. Things are moving in the right direction. When you hear these things and, you think about them banning, these food colorings, don't think that's weird. Think that, oh, they're actually looking out for us, because what you don't realize is the food that you ate in the 80s and 90s or early 2000s didn't have as many of these chemicals that they do now. And we know these are bad. We know they're not healthy for you, especially for young developing brains. And so if you, like, for instance, if you have a kid that has, even any level of ADHD, you need to be eliminating these food chemicals from their diets, because they're so reactive and they're so strong. And we'll talk about that. We'll have another podcast to talk more specifically about that. But these things that are happening are very positive. And even if you don't understand all the science of it, and there's definitely a lot of noise in both directions, Coca-Cola and Pepsi are huge, giant corporations that have billions and billions of dollars to be able to fight this. And they're just throwing out noise out there. And it's crazy how much that they'll even pay, even just for a simple little influencer that has, 10,000 followers on Instagram. They'll pay them to help get their message out there and to try to influence people to think one way or the other. So that's just the world we live in, which is kind of crazy. So ultimately, health is moving in the right direction. Politics is still politics, slow, frustrating, but is making progress. More and more than ever. And so if you're frustrated with the state of health in America, you do what you can for you and your family and make the right choices. And then take a look and see how you can contribute and help other people. So stay engaged, stay informed, speak up. That's how you become superhuman, and that's how we make America healthy again. If you're enjoying the podcast, help us reach more entrepreneurs like you by leaving a review. As a thank you, everyone who leaves a 5-star review will be entered into a drawing for some exciting prizes. We are here to help you more than just listen. Head over to superhumanentrepreneur.com, click on community, and join a powerful network of entrepreneurs that are striving to be their best. Each episode includes action steps, resources, and accountability to help you to implement these ideas and start seeing results.